The final curtain call for American big block dominance, the Mopar 400 arrived in 1972, not with fanfare, but with resignation. Chrysler's last-ditch attempt to keep big block power alive in an increasingly hostile regulatory environment. While Chevrolet and Ford were already retreating from large displacement engines, Mopar doubled down with their biggest bore ever, 4.342 inches of raw potential. But timing is everything in automotive history, and the 4.0's timing couldn't have been worse. Born into the era of emissions controls, fuel crises, and changing consumer preferences, this engine was fighting an uphill battle from day one. Yet beneath its modest power ratings and smog motor reputation lay something extraordinary. An overboard 383 with the structural integrity to handle whatever enthusiasts could throw at it. By August 1978, the last Mopar 400 rolled off the assembly line, marking the end of an era that had defined American automotive muscle for 2 decades. But was the 400 really the failure history suggests, or simply misunderstood? Historical context and development. The year 1972 stands as a watershed moment in American automotive history. The Clean Air Act was reshaping engine design, insurance companies were targeting high-performance vehicles, and the first oil crisis was just around the corner. Into this maelstrom stepped the Mopar 400, Chrysler's pragmatic response to impossible circumstances. The 400 wasn't born from performance ambitions or marketing demands. It emerged from engineering necessity. Chrysler's beloved 383 big block, the backbone of their muscle car lineup since 1958, could no longer meet increasingly stringent emissions requirements without major modifications. Rather than abandon big block architecture entirely, Chrysler's engineers chose evolution over extinction. The solution was elegantly simple: bore out the 383's proven 3.375-inch stroke platform to create the largest production bore in Mopar history. At 4.342 inches, the 400's cylinders were actually larger than those in the legendary 440RB engine. This wasn't just about displacement. It was about maintaining torque output while working within the constraints of lower compression ratios mandated by emissions regulations. Chief Engineer Pete Hagenbuck reportedly requested fuel injection for the new engine, recognizing that carburetors couldn't provide the precise fuel metering needed for both performance and emissions compliance. Corporate rejected the proposal due to cost concerns, a decision that would haunt Mopar throughout the 1970s as competitors moved toward more sophisticated fuel delivery systems. The 400 represented Chrysler's bet that traditional big block architecture could adapt to the modern world. History would prove this optimism tragically misplaced. The Golden Age. Despite arriving during the automotive industry's most challenging transition period, the Mopar 400 possessed impressive credentials that few appreciated at the time. The engine's massive 4.342-inch bore created enormous potential for airflow, while the proven 383 stroke length maintained excellent torque characteristics throughout the RPM range. Early 400 engines retained many performance features from the muscle car era. 4-barrel variants continued using roller timing chains, windage trays, chrome moly rings, and upgraded bearings, components that had originally appeared in the Roadrunner 383. These weren't cost-cutting measures. They were deliberate engineering decisions to maintain durability under demanding conditions. Law enforcement agencies quickly recognized the 400's capabilities. Police departments across America specified 400-powered cruisers for their combination of reliability and sustained high-speed performance. The engine's robust internals could handle extended pursuits that would destroy lesser power plants, while the large bore provided excellent heat dissipation during extreme operating conditions. The 400's reputation suffered from timing more than substance. Introduced the same year automotive journalists began using net horsepower ratings, the engine appeared dramatically weaker than its predecessors. A 1972 400 producing 260 net horsepower was actually comparable to many earlier engines rated at 335 gross horsepower, but public perception focused only on the numbers. Technical brilliance. Beneath its unassuming exterior, the Mopar 400 represented sophisticated engineering solutions to complex challenges. The engine's massive bore required careful attention to cylinder wall thickness and cooling efficiency, problems Chrysler's engineers solved through advanced metallurgy and casting techniques. The 400 block incorporated improvements learned from years of big block development. Extra material around the main bearing caps provided exceptional bottom-end strength, making 400 blocks highly sought after by modern performance builders. The large bore allowed for oversized intake valves and improved port geometry, though emissions requirements prevented Chrysler from fully exploiting these advantages. Compression ratios were deliberately kept at 8.2 to 1 to reduce NOx emissions while maintaining acceptable performance. This conservative approach actually improved the engine's longevity and tolerance for low-octane fuel, though it cost power in an era when power was desperately needed. The 4.0's heads featured larger exhaust ports and improved cooling passages compared to earlier designs. A heat riser valve in the right exhaust manifold directed hot gases under the intake manifold to improve cold weather drivability, a crucial feature for an engine operating with lean fuel mixtures. Perhaps most importantly, the 400 was designed with expansion in mind. The large bore and robust bottom end could easily accommodate performance modifications, though few enthusiasts recognized this potential during the engine's production years. Challenges mount. The Mopar 400's problems had little to do with engineering and everything to do with external forces beyond Chrysler's control. The engine was fundamentally sound, but it was fighting a war it couldn't win against changing regulations, economic pressures, and shifting consumer preferences. Emissions requirements tightened every year, forcing increasingly complex carburetor tuning and exhaust aftertreatment systems. The primitive electronic lean burn ignition system, introduced in later 400s, was theoretically advanced but practically troublesome. Dealers struggled with diagnosis and repair, while owners often replaced the system entirely with conventional ignition. The 1973 oil crisis devastated demand for large displacement engines. Fuel economy became a priority overnight, and the 400's respectable but not exceptional efficiency couldn't compete with smaller engines. Corporate average fuel economy regulations loomed on the horizon, threatening massive financial penalties for manufacturers who couldn't improve fleet-wide efficiency. Insurance companies began targeting big block engines specifically, making affordable muscle cars financially impossible for young buyers. The 400's association with performance, however modest, made it a target despite its relatively tame power output compared to earlier big blocks. Manufacturing costs were becoming prohibitive. The 400's large bore required expensive tooling and quality control measures. Cast crankshafts replaced forged units to reduce costs, though this change had minimal impact on durability for street applications. By 1975, it was clear that traditional big block engines had no sustainable future in passenger cars. The 400 was living on borrowed time, serving primarily in trucks and commercial applications where its durability remained valuable. The transition. The decline of the Mopar 400 was gradual but relentless, mirroring the broader retreat from big block engines across the American automotive industry. Each model year brought new restrictions, reduced power output, and diminished market relevance as Chrysler struggled to adapt decades-old technology to modern requirements. Corporate average fuel economy standards, implemented in 1975, created an existential threat to large displacement engines. Manufacturers faced steep financial penalties if their fleet-wide fuel economy fell below mandated levels. The 400's bulk and thirst, manageable in isolation, became liabilities when averaged across Chrysler's entire product line. Chrysler's financial situation was deteriorating rapidly throughout the mid-1970s. The company was hemorrhaging money, quality control was slipping, and product development budgets were slashed. The 400 suffered from this neglect, receiving minimal updates while competitors invested heavily in more efficient alternatives. The final insult came from within. Chrysler's own small block V8s, particularly the 360, could deliver comparable performance with better fuel economy and lower manufacturing costs. The 318 and 340 engines, though smaller, provided adequate power for most applications while meeting emissions requirements more easily. Marketing departments began positioning the 400 as a truck and commercial vehicle engine rather than a passenger car power plant. Heavy-duty applications still valued the engine's durability and torque output, but the glamour of automotive performance was gone. The 400 was becoming an industrial engine, not a symbol of American automotive prowess. Production numbers tell the story clearly. From respectable volumes in 1972 to 1973, 400 production dropped steadily through the middle of the decade. By 1977, the engine was available only in selected truck and van applications, with most passenger cars switching to smaller, more efficient alternatives. Chrysler's announcement that big block production was ending generated little public reaction. The muscle car era was already history. Emissions requirements had neutered most performance engines, and consumers were focused on fuel economy rather than acceleration. The 400's passing seemed inevitable rather than tragic. Legacy and modern reality. Today, more than 4 decades after the last Mopar 400 was assembled, the engine's reputation has undergone a remarkable transformation. What was once dismissed as a smog motor, unworthy of serious consideration, has become one of the most sought-after foundations for high-performance builds. Modern engine builders have discovered what emissions regulations prevented Chrysler from fully exploiting. The 400's massive bore and robust construction make it ideal for extreme performance applications. The 4.342-inch cylinders can accommodate enormous valves, while the thick cylinder walls can handle substantial overboring without compromising durability. Stroker crankshaft conversions have become particularly popular, combining the 400 block with longer stroke crankshafts to create displacements approaching 500 cubic inches. These combinations produce torque numbers that would have been unimaginable during the engine's original production run, proving that the 4.0's potential was constrained by regulations rather than engineering limitations. The aftermarket has enthusiastically embraced the 400, developing specialized parts that address every aspect of performance. High-flow cylinder heads, aggressive camshaft profiles, and modern fuel injection systems can transform a mild-mannered 1970s engine into a legitimate street monster capable of embarrassing much more exotic power plants. Collectors and restorers have also re-evaluated the 400's historical significance. As the final Mopar big block, it represents the end of an automotive era and the culmination of decades of engineering evolution. Original 400-powered vehicles, particularly those with 4-barrel carburetors and dual exhausts, have gained appreciation as symbols of American automotive perseverance. Perhaps most importantly, the 400 has become a symbol of hidden potential, proof that regulatory constraints and market conditions don't necessarily reflect an engine's fundamental capabilities. Modern enthusiasts who take the time to understand the 400's strengths often discover performance characteristics that surprised even their creators. The engine that was once written off as a compromise has become a testament to the enduring appeal of displacement and the ingenuity of enthusiasts who refuse to accept conventional wisdom. The Mopar 400 proved that sometimes the last shall be first. Dismissed as a compromise, it's now celebrated as the ultimate big block foundation. Have you built or driven a 400? Share your experiences and subscribe for more misunderstood automotive legends.